The story begins inside a prison known as the Shawshank Redemption. This place is considered one of the most secure prisons in the world. Thousands of inmates live here, and not a single person has ever escaped. The security is so strict that even the prisoners who have spent their entire lives inside never dare to think about running away, because anyone who tries is punished with death. The scene then shifts to a courtroom, where a man named Andy is standing trial. Andy is a successful banker from one of America's biggest banks. The judge sentences him to life in prison for the murder of his wife and her lover. Andy insists he is innocent, but he has no evidence to prove it. With no proof in his favor, the court sends Andy to the highly secure Shawshank prison. Andy arrives with a group of new inmates, and as soon as they are brought into the prison, the older inmates start placing bets on which of the newcomers will break down and cry during the night. One of the prisoners, named Red, bets on Andy. Red believes Andy looks too soft and privileged to handle prison life, and assumes Andy will be the first to cry. The new inmates are locked into their cells. Later that night, the older prisoners begin shouting to scare them. One of the newcomers breaks down in fear and starts crying, saying he wants to go home. The guards arrive and order him to stop crying. When he continues, they drag him out and beat him so badly that he falls unconscious. Red realizes that Andy never made a single sound during all this. Even with all the shouting and chaos, Andy stayed silent. We then see Andy quietly eating breakfast. He meets Brooks, an elderly inmate who has spent nearly 50 years inside the prison. Andy politely tries to learn about the prison rules, the routines, and the inmates living there. Brooks patiently explains everything and also mentions that if Andy ever needs anything from outside, he should talk to a man named Red, because Red is the only person who can smuggle items into the prison. Andy immediately goes to Red and asks if he can arrange something for him. Red says he can get anything as long as it isn't a weapon or something that could help someone escape. Andy asks him for a rock hammer. Hearing the word hammer, Red becomes suspicious and asks if Andy intends to hurt someone. Andy calmly says no, he has no enemies here. Red warns him that he may not have enemies yet, but there are a few men who already have their eyes on him, and he must be careful. Red still gets him the hammer. When he sees how tiny the hammer is, he laughs, thinking it would take centuries to dig a tunnel with something that small. He sends it to Andy through Brooks. Time passes. One day, while Andy is working in the laundry, the same 3 men Red had warned him about corner Andy. Andy tries to fight them off, but they overpower him. They beat him and assault him. This continues for 2 long years. Whenever they get the chance, they attack him, leaving him bruised and exhausted. One day an announcement is made that a group of inmates is needed to repair the roof. Andy and Red are chosen along with several others. The work is supervised by a strict guard named Hadley. Hadley is known for beating inmates brutally even for small mistakes. While the prisoners work on the roof, Hadley complains to the other guards that his brother has died and left him a sum of money. Since Hadley is the only family member left, the money now belongs to him. But he is upset because the moment he deposits the amount into his own account, the government will tax most of it. Andy overhears everything. Being a banker, he knows exactly how to save Hadley from paying taxes. Without thinking twice, Andy approaches Hadley and asks, "Do you trust your wife?" Hadley gets angry and grabs Andy, dragging him toward the edge of the roof. Before Hadley can throw him off, Andy quickly explains that if Hadley trusts his wife, he can legally gift the money to her, because the law allows a man to give his wife up to a certain amount as a tax-free gift. Andy adds that hiring a lawyer would be expensive, but he can prepare everything for free. Hadley calms down and asks what Andy wants in return. Andy simply says he wants nothing for himself. He only wants cold beers for all his fellow prisoners. The next day, the prisoners sit on the roof, enjoying bottles of beer. Andy doesn't drink. He sits quietly, watching everyone enjoy themselves, feeling content. His fellow inmates appreciate him deeply, because having beer inside prison is almost impossible. Time moves on, and Andy and Red grow closer as friends. One day, the inmates watch a movie in the prison hall. After the screening, Andy goes to Red and asks for a large poster of Rita Hayworth. Red agrees, since he is the only one who can arrange such things. As Andy walks out, the same 3 men who used to attack him confront him again. He refuses to go with them, and they beat him so badly that he ends up in the hospital for a month. The leader of that group is punished and placed in solitary confinement for a week. When he comes out, the same guard whose taxes Andy saved finds out what he did. The guard beats him so brutally that the man becomes permanently paralyzed. A month later, Andy returns to his cell and finds the poster of Rita Hayworth waiting for him, a gift from Red. Time passes, and one day, the warden enters Andy's cell with security guards and orders a search. They find nothing. As the warden turns to leave, he notices the poster and says that posters are usually not allowed, but Andy can keep it. In truth, the search was just an excuse. The officer had told the warden how Andy saved him from losing his money, and now the warden wants Andy for his own benefit. The next day, the warden calls Andy to his office. He tells Andy that a man with his intelligence should not waste away behind bars. He then assigns Andy to work in the prison library. Brooks is already running the library and has been doing so for many years. As the years pass, Andy's workload keeps increasing, and soon he needs an assistant. He chooses his closest friend, Red, to help him. The warden starts a new program where prisoners are taken outside to work. This way they learn how money is earned through labor. The inmates agree because they also want a chance to breathe fresh air. Through this program, the warden begins receiving multiple work contracts since prison labor is extremely cheap. Meanwhile, local construction workers lose jobs because the warden completes projects at half the price by using prisoners. He pays them nothing, so all the money he earns is pure profit. Andy, being a banker, helps the warden turn all this illegal income into clean money. He creates accounts under the name of a man who doesn't even exist. All the warden's money is transferred into that fake identity's account so that even if the police somehow discover the scam, they will end up searching for someone who was never born. One day, a new inmate named Tommy arrives. He is young and has already been in several prisons because of his repeated crimes. Tommy is friendly, so he quickly becomes friends with many inmates. And soon he starts asking Red about Andy. Red explains that Andy was a successful banker, but was sentenced for murdering his wife and her lover. Tommy goes silent, as if remembering something important. Later, he calls Andy and Red together. Tommy reveals that 4 years earlier, in another prison, he met an inmate who once broke into a house. During the robbery, the owner woke up. Scared of getting caught, that inmate killed the man and the woman with him. Later he realized the two were lovers, not husband and wife. That woman was married to a wealthy banker. This confirms that Andy was innocent all along. Andy immediately goes to the warden and tells him everything. But the warden refuses to believe him. The warden cannot afford to let Andy leave. Andy is the one who launders his illegal money and knows all his secrets. If Andy goes free, the warden might lose everything and his crimes might be exposed. So the warden tells Andy that the story is fake and that he hears such stories all the time. Andy promises that if he is ever released, he will never expose the warden. But the warden still refuses to help and dismisses everything. Andy becomes furious. He had helped this man for years, yet the warden still wouldn't allow him justice. Andy yells at him in anger. This makes the warden send him to solitary confinement for 1 month. Afterward, the warden goes straight to Tommy and questions him about the story. Tommy confirms that everything he said was true. The warden then asks if Tommy would testify in court. Tommy agrees without hesitation. Hearing this, the warden signals the guard above, who shoots Tommy multiple times, killing him on the spot. The warden returns to Andy and lies to him, saying Tommy was shot while trying to escape. Andy instantly understands the real reason behind Tommy's death. He realizes the warden is far more corrupt and cruel than he imagined. Andy tells the warden he will no longer do any work for him. The warden replies that Andy has no choice. If he refuses, the prison will become a living hell for him. As he walks away, he orders the guards to put Andy in solitary confinement for another month. Inside the prison, everyone soon learns that Andy is being punished for a crime he never committed. The inmates feel deeply sorry for him. After 2 full months, when Andy is finally released from solitary, Red meets him. Andy asks Red if he thinks he will ever leave this prison. Red says he might, but only when he is old and his mind no longer works. Andy then says that once he gets out, he will go to Mexico. There is a beautiful place near the sea where a man can lose himself. Andy dreams of opening a small restaurant there and repairing his boat by the shore. He says he will need a man who can handle errands for him, hinting at Red. Red warns him that hope is dangerous. It can break a man. He tells Andy to accept reality because Mexico is far away from here. As Red leaves, Andy calls him back and asks for a promise. He gives Red an address and tells him that if he ever gets released, he should go to that place. In the middle of a large field, there is a beautiful tree. Andy once proposed to his wife under that tree. Beneath it, inside a stone wall, Red will find a black stone. Under that stone is a box that Andy hid long ago. He tells Red to open it when he is free. After saying this, Andy walks away and goes to the warden's office. He finishes the warden's financial work, locks all the documents inside a special safe, and the warden hands him his clothes to be pressed and his shoes to be polished. Andy takes them and returns to his cell. That night, Red cannot sleep. He fears Andy might harm himself. Morning comes, the cell doors open, and all prisoners step out, except Andy. For the first time in 20 years, Andy does not come out of his cell. Red grows anxious, thinking the worst. A guard angrily walks toward Andy's cell, but when he looks inside, he freezes. The cell is empty. Andy has escaped. Meanwhile, the warden opens his shoe box to get ready for the day, but instead of his polished shoes, he finds Andy's old worn-out shoes. Suddenly, the entire prison alarm goes off. A prisoner has escaped. The warden quickly rushes to Andy's cell and sees that Andy is gone. He immediately tells the security guard to bring Red, because Red is always with Andy. Red is brought in, and the warden asks him where Andy is. Red replies that he has no idea. This makes the warden furious. He shouts, asking if Andy was some kind of ghost who vanished overnight. In anger, the warden picks up the stones lying nearby and starts throwing them at the guards and at Red. One stone hits the poster on the wall, but instead of bouncing back, it passes straight through it. When the warden puts his hand behind the poster, he discovers a large tunnel that Andy had carved inside the wall. Everyone is shocked, because this wall was extremely strong, and digging through it without any machine was almost impossible. But Andy managed to do the impossible and escaped. The guards follow the tunnel to the spot where Andy came out. There, they find Andy's old clothes and the small hammer that Red had gotten for him 20 years ago. This was the same hammer Andy had used all these years to dig the tunnel in his cell. For 20 years, Andy worked slowly and carefully so that no one ever found out. And the dirt he removed from the wall, he would hide in his pockets and scatter on the ground in the yard. The last time Andy worked for the warden, he secretly took all the documents related to the warden's illegal money and kept them with himself. He then placed his Bible in the warden's safe right in front of him, making it look like he was returning the warden's documents instead. Andy also wore the clothes the warden had given him to press, and on top of those, he put on his old clothes. He then wore the polished shoes the warden had asked him to shine. After that, he walked out quietly. At night, when all the lights went off, Andy crawled out through the tunnel he had dug in his cell. Outside, he broke a sewer pipe and crawled through the narrow pipe to escape from a prison that no one had ever escaped from. The pipe he crawled through was almost 2 kilometers long. The next morning, Andy went to the bank where the warden's black money was kept. All the money was under the name of a man who didn't even exist. Andy had created this identity himself. The bank already had the signature of that fake person because Andy used to sign for it from the prison. So withdrawing the money was easy for him. Andy withdrew all the money, $370,000. Andy did not just escape, he became rich. And it becomes clear that Andy had been planning this since the very day he entered the prison. Because the warden had treated Andy terribly and had even killed Tommy, Andy sent all the documents exposing the warden's corruption to the media. The next morning, the news was published in the newspapers. When the warden opened his safe, instead of his documents, he found the Bible. When the warden turned the page, he saw an impression of the hammer. Andy had cut the pages of the Bible in the shape of the hammer, creating a perfect hollow space where he hid the tool. The warden is shocked. Meanwhile, the warden's corruption story spreads everywhere, and reporters and police gather outside to arrest him. Before they can take him into custody, the warden shoots himself. Sometime later, Red is finally released, and the government arranges a job for him. But Red cannot adjust to life outside because he has spent 40 years in prison. He even stays in the same room where Brooks once lived, and at one point, he considers ending his life too. But then he remembers the promise he made to Andy. Red gets in a car and drives to the place Andy told him about. He reaches a large field where there is a big tree and a stone wall. On the wall, he finds a black stone. When he lifts it, he finds a box underneath. Inside the box, there is some money and a letter from Andy. In the letter, Andy says he is waiting for Red at the place he had described to him in prison. And he also writes that hope is a good thing. Red then travels to that place. When he reaches the seashore, he sees Andy repairing his boat. This place is the dream Andy had shared with Red in prison, and at that time, Red had said hope was not a good thing. Now, the two friends meet again and hug each other. With this, the story ends here. If you liked this video, then I highly recommend these two videos on your screen.